Hello everyone, my dear students, listeners, welcome to Graphical User Applications with Python. Today's lesson is about buttons, new widget, but let me review what we have done. So we did labels. Probably this is the most popular widget. Everybody, any programmer eventually wants to show some text on the screen. And of course, we also using buttons a lot. Today topic buttons, but comparing labels and buttons, you can see, of course, labels are rather passive. They not just for interaction, they are rather for display. But buttons are interactive, active widgets. You have to click, and the programmer, of course, has to react on those clicks. So we did labels in two steps. So we did them straightforward way, without classes first, so you can basically understand the difference. And then we extracted from the main script all the stuff. We put it in a separate file. We call it form. And now all the labels, all the integer variables became instance variables of our new class form. So form is a bigger class based on existing classes, and obviously this is composition. What composition is about building new classes using existing objects. You can see, by the way, on my screen the previous lesson coding. And sometimes, in order to differentiate just regular instance variables like integers or strings or booleans and widgets, I put prefix for widget, so it's very clear right away. By looking at the widget instance variable, you can say what kind of widget it is, and I use LBL prefix for labels, and I'm going to be using BTN prefix for the buttons. Sometimes, by the way, this style, when you embed into the variable name its type, is called Hungarian style. Anyway, today is buttons, and not only. Another very important thing today is frames. Frames are rather invisible, but they are super important because they let us organize widgets. They are containers. They can be nested. You can put inside one frame another frame. So we are going to try frames. Today I am going to use FRM prefix for the frames. And event handlers. We are going to create today our first event handlers. If you review my Python fundamentals course, I think it's lesson 9, functions. You see there are 3 types of functions. Let's say normal functions created by you, called by you. Library functions created by somebody else, but called by you. And finally, there are event handlers. You create event handlers, but you don't call them. They called by the operating system whenever something happens in the system, like user interactions. So all the users interactions supposed to have event handlers. Okay, before we start, let's take a look at the new color mixer implementation. We use the same theme, color mixer, but we inject into this color mixer idea new content. So today you're going to have a label for mixing color on the top, and you're going to have 6 buttons. One is to increment the amount of the color. You see my mixer getting more and more red. Second button is to decrement. The same way I can increment green. If you mix, by the way, green and red, it's technically speaking yellow. You see, I can create any kind of colors. Of course, I can do the same with the blue plus and blue minus. So 6 buttons to manipulate components, RGB components, and you see the results of your manipulation just above them. So that's the idea. Now, if we're learning buttons, first of all, of course, I want to know how to build it, how to instantiate a button. Remember, any widget in tkinter library is a class, and you have to first instantiate widget. Secondly, you have to visualize, you have to add it. We call pack method to add widget to the screen, and there are 2 ways to position them. If you don't provide any parameters in your pack, you position widgets vertically. But if you provide parameter side equals left, you position your widgets horizontally. So just remember, pack method can place your widgets both vertically and horizontally. Okay, how to build, how to instantiate a button. Look at my screen. Of course, I need master, parent window, or parent frame. I need the actual text of the button. I may change the font, and I have 2 colors for my button, the foreground, the text color, and the background, the color of the button. But this is something new. When you instantiate a button, you immediately provide a reference to the function, to the event handler. That's what command is about. Very important parameter. Of course, any button you create going to need this parameter. Yes, button is big. I mean, the class is big. It has more stuff. However, all the parameters in a constructor have default values, and that's why you may forget about many less important parameters. And of course, whenever I explain you the widgets, I show you the most important parameters, not all the parameters. If you want to instantiate a frame, which is a container, we are going to need, by the way, 3 frames. You saw it. Buttons located in pairs. So we are going to have 3 frames where we are going to push 2 buttons horizontally. So frame constructor is just one parameter. It's the window your frame belongs to. Good. Let's get to the actual class. So the form class going to have now the following instance variables. Of course, I'm going to have display where I mix the colors. Of course, I'm going to have an integer variable to control red component. I'm going to have frame to combine two buttons together horizontally. And you see I have two buttons. So that's all members of my class, instance variables, and the same for the green, and the same for the blue. So my event handler also going to be a member of my class. So I'm going to have the following methods. So I write my event handler not just as a function, as a detached function. I think about it as a method, and we have 6 different event handlers to attach to 6 different buttons, and I have a method to mix, to build the color string. So all 6 event handlers going to call it, it's called update mixer, and it's not the event handler, it's just a method. So that's the content of my form. You see data members or instance variables, and you see the methods. Let's take a look. The coding, the form is the same, by the way, as in the previous lesson. Very simple. I need a main window, I need a title, a size, I instantiate my form, and I trigger the loop of the messages. But the form is now you have to create a frame, and look, the master of my frame is main window. I push my frame into my main window with a small space. Pack. You have to pack frames the same way you pack other widgets. And if you don't provide side parameter, you pack vertically. Then I instantiate 2 buttons, and I add them to my frame horizontally. Look, that's the difference. So I'm using frame to organize 2 buttons together so they placed side by side. The same green, so I encourage everyone to type the coding, please try it. And the same is blue. Now what happens if the user click? It's very simple. If the user click, I update red component, increment or decrement by 5. I update green, blue component. So 6 buttons attached to 6 different event handlers. Finally, when the color is updated, I call update mixer method, and what it does, it just format 3 variables, red, green, and blue, in hexadecimal, and it adds number sign. So we using format method to assemble string, and then we update the color of the label. Let me show you one more time how it is working. Let me run it, and you see if you resize, TK Inter Layout Manager still reposition nicely your widgets. You see 3 frames, they are invisible. However, it's possible to add borders. So if you want, you can draw a border around the frame. And here we are. So if I press, right now my color is 0, so that's why it's black. So it is 6 zeros. And whenever I press minus, nothing changes, because my event handlers, they validate. They make sure you won't get out of the range. So the color doesn't change because it's already 0. But I can definitely add blue color. I can definitely add green color. By the way, green and blue combination is purple, as far as I remember. No, it's cyan. So green and blue combination is cyan. And by the way, if all three components are the same, it's gonna be grayish. So gray color is when three components pretty much the same. So you see I did grayish color. So congrats, we did one more lesson on Python GUI apps. We covered today 3 things: buttons, frames, event handlers, and I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow. We are going to talk about checkboxes, very popular widgets. Good luck, guys. Keep learning, keep coming to my channel. I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, and comments. All the best. Bye-bye.